Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jason Blume. We may be remote, but the audience still loves you.
Oh, thanks.
Hi, Jason. How are you, man?
Better than I deserve. How about you, Michael?
I'm good, thanks. How's life on my favorite island?
Heaven.
I bet. I want to give the folks some background, and then I'll turn you loose to do your class. And by the way, yeah, Jason lives on Kauai, which is a wonderful island in the Hawaiian chain. If you ever get a chance to go there, please do. Don't bring the COVID with you. Anyway, Jason's songs are on 3 Grammy-nominated albums and have sold more than 50 million, dear God, 50 million copies. He's one of only a few writers to have singles on the pop chart, the country chart, and the R&B chart all at the same time.
And I might add, there were 2 on the country chart at the same time, but
wow.
Who's counting?
His songs have been recorded by artists including Britney Spears, the Gypsy Kings, who I love, the Backstreet Boys, Jesse McCartney, and country stars, including 6 songs cut by Colin Ray, the Oak Ridge Boys, Steve Azar, and John Barry, who cut Change My Mind, a top 5 single that earned a BMI Millionaire Award for Jason because it garnered more than 1 million airplays. In 2013, he had 2 top 10 singles and a gold record by Dutch star B. Yentl.
Yes.
B. Yentl must be a relative of Barbra Streisand.
Exactly.
His songs have been included in films and TV shows, including Scrubs, Friday Night Lights, Disney's Kim Possible, Dangerous Minds, Kicking It Old School, The Guiding Light, the Miss America pageant, and many, many more. Jason authored 3 of the best-selling songwriting books out there and is in his 19th year of teaching at BMI's Nashville Songwriters Workshop. But the most important thing he's ever done is to teach you guys how to take your songs from good to great, which he's going to do today. But Jason, before we launch into it, were you holding up the books already?
I actually was, but you can go for it because I didn't do too well.
Hold them up again. Like right in front of your face, because I only get you from shoulder to shoulder. There you go. Okay. I've read his books. They are great. A lot of TAXI members have read them. They are awesome. So, Jason, please tell our TAXI members and other guests how to take their songs from good to great.
Thanks, Michael. I'm just going to have one logistical question for you before we get started. And I was going to tell everybody, if you have questions for me, type them in the chat room so that I can, at a good time, stop and look at your questions. And I'm not sure where my chat room is, where I can see questions.
Where will Jason find his chat room? He's got to log into... He wants to see the chat so he can look in there and answer his own
Unless
questions.
You want to just tell me the questions.
Yeah, that'll probably be better because you're going to be on a little delay that I won't be.
Oh, okay.
So I'm opening up my chat right now.
Awesome.
And I'll feed you good ones, I promise.
Okay, good. The only other logistical issue I'll mention is the bathrooms are down the hall. Okay. I've been really busy preparing this lecture, and I have not had my TV on. I haven't been online or anything. Is anything happening in the world that I should know about? Kidding. I'm going to be honest. I am still really hanging on to hopes for Kanye West. And the main reason is so I don't have to hear the damn Lee Greenwood song anymore. Lee Greenwood has earned enough money. It's time for a new song. Okay. And maybe it'll be one of your songs. And let's talk about how we can get perfectly crafted songs up that little notch, because good's not going to be good enough. And we're trying to come up with ways to make songs jump out of the pack. A lot of my suggestions are going to be melodic suggestions. Why? Because, in my opinion, the top 3 reasons in order why songs become successful would be melody, melody, and melody. And I want to give you some proof that the melody is what rules and that people are not necessarily paying close attention to the lyrics. I'm going to recite a lyric, a little piece of a lyric that people have been singing along with at Trump rallies. Let's see. They have everything for you men to enjoy. You can hang out with all the boys. You can get yourself clean. You can have a good meal. You can do whatever you feel. People, it's a song about gay hookups. Just give me a moment while I savor the idea of people at Trump rallies all singing about the joys of gay hookups. The point is, they're not listening to the words. It's fun. It's the music. It's the, making the YMCA. But similarly, Hallelujah, Leonard Cohen's classic. She tied you to a what I'd say if I could speak. She tied you to a kitchen chair. She broke your throne. She cut your hair. And from your lips, she drew the hallelujah. There was a time you let me know what's really going on below, but now you never show it to me, do ya? Etc. It's sex. But this song has been sung at the Olympics. It's sung at funerals, weddings. It was on a telethon for disaster relief. It doesn't make any sense. Listen, I am not saying that your lyrics don't matter. Of course they do. But what I'm saying is it doesn't matter how incredible your lyrics are unless they are delivered on the wings of an incredible, cannot get this out of my brain, fresh melody that evokes emotion. So let's talk about some of the tools that can do that. The first one is something that I call magic notes. Unless somebody else has read my book, you can't say to them, let's add a magic note. It's a term I came up with myself. What it is, it's the unexpected moment melodically, that wow note, or it could be a chord that totally grabs attention. And the best way I can show you how important they are is to extract some of them from songs that you're used to. Let's listen to the song that established Garth Brooks as a superstar without the one magic note. Oh, I've got friends in low places. So the magic is, oh, I've got friends in low places. Take the ribbons from your hair. No, take the ribbons from your hair. Isn't it rich? Isn't it queer? Losing my timing this late in my career. No, no. Sondheim's classic is losing my timing this late in my career. That's what one note can do. On a recent big pop hit, Ava Max's Sweet But Psycho. Oh, she's sweet, but she's psycho, a little bit psycho, psycho. That bend is a hook. And going up to that high note, not, oh, she's sweet, but she's psycho, a little bit psycho, then it's okay. But it's wow with that extra note. If those moments emerge naturally as you're writing, fantastic. But if not, you can go back and ask yourself, is there a place where I can bring in a chord that maybe is going to take things to a next level, or a note that's going to really go, wow, I love this song. So I did say it can apply to chords as well. I want to give you a couple of songs that I think you should listen to that will show the power of the unexpected chord, and it goes with the unexpected note. Check out Dan and Shay's country song. Actually, it's crossing over. I Should Probably Go to Bed. My guess, song of the year, country song of the year. Just absolutely incredible. Piece of melodic and chords taking a song to an amazing place. Also, check out The Joke, Brandi Carlile. Some of the chord choices, they take my breath away. And that's what we want. That can separate a song. It can make all the difference. Okay, next tool. How about adding what I call a post-chorus? What is a post-chorus? It's a bonus hook. It's a distinct section at the end of the chorus, and it introduces a new melody that is not heard anywhere else in the song. It usually includes vocals, but it might be nonsense syllables that are sung as opposed to words. For instance, my favorite example is the post-chorus of Ed Sheeran's Shape of You. Oh, I, oh, I, oh, I, oh, I. Oh, I, oh, I, oh, I, oh, I. Those little extras, they're bonus hooks. They're like if you need 100 points to have a smash hit, putting in one of these post-choruses might just give you those extra 10 points that you need to get over the top in Michigan. Oh, I mean in songwriting. Okay, so most often, a post-chorus is going to be 8 musical bars at the end of every chorus, but it can be 4 bars, but it's rarely more than 8. And sometimes they hold it back until the final chorus. Or it might be 4 bars after the first chorus and then 8 bars for each subsequent chorus. I'm going to give you some songs to listen to later to hear incredible post-choruses. Listen to Harry Styles' Watermelon Sugar. Listen to, so that you'll see this also applies to country songs, Thomas Rhett and Maren Morris had a #1 country song called Craving You. Listen to that. It's got an amazing post-chorus. Okay, let's talk about some lyric things that you can do. You know what? Before I do, are there any questions that have come in, Michael?
Yes. Are you saying people should write melody first? Paul House would like to know.
Am I saying people should write melody first? I'm saying people should write melodies that sound like they came first, whether they did or not. I don't care what comes first. I'm aware of huge hit songs where every imaginable thing came first. Melody, chord changes, meaning people who are writing a top line to an existing track. I know of songs that started with a ukulele riff and went on to become #1s. I know many songs have also started with lyrics and went on to be #1. What I'm saying is, however you do it, when that song is done, melody's got to rule. It's got to sound like nothing was more important than melody. You can't even imagine a better melody going with that song. And while I'm on that topic, I'll tell you, because I believe so strongly that melody is the key to having success, rewrite your melodies. So many people spend a lot of time working on that lyric to get it exactly right, but they settle for the very first melody that pops out of their head. To me, if I accept, which I do, that melody is going to make the difference, why would I not rewrite, say, my chorus melody 4 or 5 times, trying it different ways? To me, that just makes sense. So, any other questions?
Yes. Can a post-chorus work in genres like rock or punk?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I wish I could think off the top of my head of some examples for you, but I know they work in every genre. So, definitely.
Do you want a couple more?
Just one more.
Okay, one more. I feel like adding cool chords. I'm sorry, I scribbled this out. I feel like adding cool chords can change the genre of a song. Do you think about the different types of chords, different voicings and stuff as you're writing?
In a sense, those are 2 different questions. Absolutely, the chord choice can alter the genre. Many, many years ago, I had a song that was recorded by a 12-year-old artist named Jason, but it was J''SON, and he was on Disney's Hollywood Records. The song did amazing outside the U.S. It was number one in Australia. It was number one in New Zealand, number two in Australia. Didn't do so great in the U.S., but they did a remix of the song, and suddenly this pure, fluffy little pop song definitely got this urban thing, and they re-released it to urban radio as if that's what it was. And so absolutely, the chords can make a huge difference. I would say where I'm weakest as a songwriter is with chords. So when I co-write, I'm looking to write to a track where the chords are already done. And I'm not going to say that I'll never ask a track writer to change a chord. If I'm really hearing a melody that I want it to go to and it's not going to work with the existing chord, I will ask, but that rarely happens. But when I'm sitting down in a room to write with somebody, most often I'm going to let them be the one leading the chords. Even though I might have my guitar in my hand, I know that I'm limited in chords, but I'm not limited up here where I can hear the chords. I just don't necessarily know how to play them. I'll add something that a lot of people tell me has made a big impact on their songwriting. Early on, I was even worse than I am now on guitar. And I'm not being modest. At my very best, I'm at the bottom part of mediocre. I work with people who are unbelievable players, and I know what that's like. I'll never be in that ballpark because it's not a priority for me to work on that. But early on, I was really bad. I probably knew a half a dozen guitar chords. That was about it. And what I would do is when I got stuck on a chord and I just was hearing it crystal clear in my head, but I couldn't find it on the guitar, I couldn't play it, I would go to somebody who was way better than I am with chords, and I would pay them. And I would say to them, can you find this chord for me? Here's the note, and they might play something, and I'd say, no, I'm looking for something darker. And they'd try maybe a half a dozen different options before I would say, that's the chord I'm hearing. Thank you. So, did we just collaborate on a song, or did I just pay you to get out of my brain and onto the recording the chord I couldn't find? The answer is, you better be crystal clear up front with the person you're doing that with, so that there is no question about it. When I was doing it, there was no question about it. But when you start getting into genres like dance and urban genres where the chords are so important, somebody could very well say, hey, I changed the whole feel of this song with that chord. Bottom line is, talk it out up front and be crystal clear. Are we collaborating, or are you helping me find chords? If somebody actually gives you an existing musical track to work to, where you're going to write the top line, which is the melody and the lyric that goes with those chords, in a case like that, that person will virtually always be a co-writer. And depending on the genre, it's very likely it's going to be a 50-50 split. Even though you could say, I wrote all the melody. They could say, yeah, but you wouldn't have written that melody if my chords didn't take you down that path. Bottom line, make sure you're real clear up front about how it's going to be handled.
Here's a classic example that ended up in a lawsuit, I believe. I don't remember how it ended up, but Do You Think I'm Sexy? Rod Stewart. Dun, dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun. Did the song make the lick, or did the lick make the song?
I hear you. You know, in country music, if you're doing demos in Nashville with live players, they are expected to come up with those hooky licks. That's part of their job. They don't get writer's credit for doing that. If they don't come up with incredible hooky licks, they don't get to work a whole lot more. I mean, again, that's what they're being paid for, not to play perfect chords in time, but to contribute the parts. However, take any other genre, pretty much, and that's not going to be the case. It's really, a lot of times if you see a pop song or an urban song and it's got 14 writers listed, some of them are going to be samples, but in many cases, and believe me, I know some of these people, one of those people might be the guitar player on the track who came up with a hooky lick and got 5% of the credit. Somebody else might be even the drummer or the bass player because what they contributed to that track was hooky, and maybe they're getting 3% of the credit. Maybe they're getting 10. But my point is, outside of country, you better expect, and again, talk it through out front, but it's typical outside of country. If somebody's contributing to the track and, doing things that could be interpreted as a hook, they're going to be credited as a co-writer.
Great advice. Yeah, we just had Erin Jacobson on an hour ago, and she would be a big fan of what you're saying right now. Be clear, be upfront, get it in writing. People are afraid to ask. They're afraid to offend somebody, but you know what? Better than ending up in a lawsuit for both parties.
You got that right. The next tool I wanted to talk about is coming up with a title and a concept that are really fresh, that are really different. A new way to say the same old thing, essentially. Why am I saying a new way to say the same old thing as opposed to saying a brand new thing to say? And I think the reason is because there really are a limited number of topics that people are going to relate to and want to sing along with and hear on the radio. And of course, the most popular ones are going to be love, whether it's, looking for love, looking to get rid of love, wishing love were better, missing somebody. Love is going to be the main thing people are going to write about. It's not the only thing. You can have songs that have social issues in them, songs about wishing for a better life, aspiring, to your dreams. I'm going to get out of this small town. And you can have songs about small towns, and you can have songs about being proud to be an American. I think that one earned a couple of bucks. But that's still a pretty limited field. Sure, you can have Christmas songs, holiday songs, but you're not going to come up with some brand new thing to write songs about. What we have to come up with is new angles, new ways to write about those things that millions of people are going to relate to. So I'm talking about a concept, and a concept that is expressed through a title. I'm going to tell you the most successful song I've ever had for sync placements. The song has been synced more than 20 times. And I'm talking some big ones. I'm not talking 5 seconds in the background. I'm talking Scrubs, Friday Night Lights, for Disney's First Kid, Assassination Games. I mean, some big uses here. Why? What made that song get picked instead of everything else? First of all, I'm going to tell you, it's an up-tempo, contemporary sounding song. It does not sound like a depressing funeral dirge. The reason I bring that up is at my workshops, inevitably, when I critique a song that sounds so depressing and dark and slow, and I say, what's your hope or your intention for this song? Who do you think should record this? The answer is inevitably television and film. But the reality is, I think, Michael, you would know this 1,000 times better than me, but my sense is that the majority of songs that get synced sound like contemporary songs, like actual songs, not depressing. I'm not talking about musical cues in the background.
Right.
I'm talking about when songs get synced. So this is an up-tempo song that I wrote, and it's got a really fun sort of R&B groove to it. But I think what set it apart was the title. And here's how I came up with that title, which I'm not giving it away yet. I was hanging out with a guy who's really successful in placing songs. I mean, he's a publisher who places songs in huge films, TV shows, commercials. And he asked me if I would want to write to a track that he had. I said, absolutely. And I said, do you have any sense of maybe what you want the lyric to be about? Is there something hot right now that all of a sudden people are asking for songs about? And he said, I don't know if it's a trend, and this is a long time ago, so don't jump on this and think, oh, I know what I'm supposed to write now. He said, a lot of times people have been asking me for songs about money. And I thought a second. I thought, okay, money, show me the money. I thought, well, I'm not going to write a song called Show Me the Money because it's totally cliche. And what would it be about? I don't know. And suddenly this idea started gelling in my head. And it was like, if you want to get down with me, there's something I need to see. You got to show me the honey, not the money. A twist on it. Show me the honey. And the rest is history. The rest is more than 20 sync placements. I sincerely believe the title. Yes, it had to have the groove. It had to have the melody. I think the title is what set it apart. So when you're coming, in my experience, I've written in a lot of different countries and a lot of different genres. And whether I'm writing in Korea or Japan or in, Scandinavia, it seems like when it's time to write the lyric, everybody is in agreement that we want to know what the title is going to be. Now, the melody might have come first, or the track might have come first, but we don't just start throwing lyrics out at each other. Instead, we'll say, well, gosh, what's this track saying? What's the feel? What are the words that are hidden inside this track that we need to chip away at? And by coming up with the title first of all, I'm sure that I won't write a title if I don't think it's fresh and interesting and unique. And by coming up with it first, I'm able to take the lyric and direct it to that title. So the title pays off. So it's not just tacked on because, oh, that's a cool title, but it's there because it's the organic conclusion of the rest of the lyric. So when you're thinking about titles, ask yourself, is this a title that would make somebody just look at it and say, that's cool, I want to record that? Let me give you some examples of bad titles and how the same idea could be approached really well. Instead of saying, you're no good for me, Britney Spears went to #1 with Toxic. You're toxic. We'd all heard about toxic relationships. Nobody had written a song saying that. #1 country song this week is Darius Rucker's Beers and Sunshine. Now, if you want to hear some clever writing, Beers and Sunshine is set up in the chorus by saying, the only BS I want is beers and sunshine. Very clever, very funny. But instead of, he got specific. What do I want? Beers and sunshine. Not, there are only 2 things I need. That's boring. You got to grab the attention. I will tell you a song with one of the most extraordinary lyrics I've ever heard in my life. And it was Grammy winner for Americana Roots Song of the Year, Jason Isbell, If We Were Vampires. Raise your hand if you have a song called If We Were Vampires. I mean, that is really unusual. And the concept of it was so brilliant. If we were vampires, life would go on forever. So each moment that we have together would not be as important as it is, knowing that we will die, knowing that we will pass. Each moment is that much more precious. That just gave me chill bumps, just saying that. So which song would grab your attention? The one that's called Nothing Lasts Forever, or the one that's called If We Were Vampires? Point taken, I hope.
Yes.
There is a writer, multiple times ASCAP Writer of the Year. His name is Ashley Gorley. As of last week, you ready for this? Ashley Gorley, who is nowhere near as old as I am. I mean, we're talking about somebody probably 40. Ashley Gorley has written 51 number one country singles.
Wow.
That's 51. It is not a coincidence when somebody has 51 number one singles. And here is my all-time favorite quote about lyric writing that came from Ashley Gorley's lips. He said, "If anybody else could have written that line, I throw it out." That is powerful. And here's what he's really saying. The people who are choosing songs have this like incredible pool to choose from. There are thousands of songs they could choose from. Why should they pick one that has lyrics in it that anybody could have written or anybody else could have written? He goes back and looks at those lines and says, how can I say this same thing in a fresh, new way? And we have to do that, or they're not going to pick ours. It's that simple. So it becomes extra challenging. And again, Michael, you will know this better than me. It's extra challenging when you're writing intending placements for sync, because you want to avoid the details or the specific references that could stop your song from working in a scene. I've got to tell you, I learned this the hard way when I had a song. My first major label cut was, God, let me think what it was called. The band was White Heat. They named the band after my song, which was White Heat. And it was a Canadian band on CBS. This was a really huge deal for me. I can't believe I'm getting into this story, but I'm going to tell you how I got this cut. But first, I want to tell you, and Michael, if I forget, remind me to tell them how I got this cut. Okay. So the song was all about white heat burning hotter than a summer's night. And it was scheduled to be a single. The problem was it was probably 30 degrees below zero in Canada when this song was supposed to come out as a single, all about hot summer nights. Guess what did not get released as a single? And instead, the single that did get released stiffed, and my song never got released. They dropped the band. So if it doesn't have to be summer, and maybe it does, and maybe that's why the song would get synced, the point is I don't want to include anything that's not mandatory that could knock my song out. So right. Here's the real interesting lesson about writing this song. I got a track to write to. It wasn't just a track. It was a track with a melody. I mean, every note was worked out. I had never had a major cut in my life. This melody and track was done by two people. One of them had written two of my all-time favorite songs. The other one had just won a Grammy for Country Song of the Year, and I have nothing on my plate. I've had one independent single at that point. And they gave me a shot at writing this with the full understanding that if I didn't deliver, they'd just give it to somebody else. So I worked and I worked and I worked on this. My God, I had so much riding on it. And I delivered it. I sent them my finished lyric. And the first thing they said was, there are a couple of places where you added a syllable or you took away one syllable. That will not work. This is the melody. I was like, oh my God, I can't add one freaking syllable. They said, but that's not even the issue. You know, what you wrote is fine. It's okay. It's not a smash. And we really appreciate your putting your time into it, but we're going to give it to somebody else. No, wait. Actually, I had 3 or 4 other ideas that I didn't run past you. Give me just till tomorrow, and I'll run something else past you. Okay. I didn't have 3 or 4 other ideas. I didn't have any other ideas. And I swear to you, I took that this is how far I'm going back. It was a cassette. I put it in my car stereo, and I was driving around the Northridge shopping center which wasn't that far from where I lived in Tarzana back then. And it was a Sunday. I guess it must have been late. I don't know, because there weren't any cars around. And I just kept driving around the parking lot, like for hours, singing along with this cassette, trying desperately, begging, if there is a God in heaven, let a hit come out of my mouth, and trying and writing down pages and pages of stuff. And what I wound up sending them became my first major label cut. And I never share that. I completely forget about that. I always share that the cut that changed my life, I had rewritten 7 times. And each time I brought it to a publisher and they said no. And I went back to the drawing board 7 times. And it was the 7th version, 7 demos, I might add, that changed my entire life. So the 2 lessons there were, I don't know what the hell the first lesson was. Okay, we were talking about new ways to say the same old thing. And I was talking about how it's extra challenging when you know you're writing for sync. I'm going to share my all-time favorite lyric from the theme song of a TV show. And it's the HBO show True Blood. I don't know if you remember that.
Sure.
The opening line of the lyric was, when you walked in, the air went out. Wow. What a way to say you walked into the bar with those painted on jeans and you were the prettiest thing I'd ever seen. And no, there was no bar mentioned. There were no specifics mentioned, just the emotion of how this person felt when they saw the other person. To me, that is the perfect sync line. I'll take some time for questions before I get to the next tool.
Okay. Any tricks on finding the magic note?
Yes, try a lot of them. And all kidding aside, one thing to do is think about prosody. Prosody. It's the marriage of the words and the music. Garth Brooks did not sing, oh, I've got friends in low places. Sorry, I haven't warmed up. The word low naturally wanted to go low. If you're going to sing about soaring, flying, touch the sky, heavens, maybe you want to look for a magic note that's up high. If you're looking for something that's going to be, I've never felt so low, I've never been so down, so blue, maybe you want to look low. That's the only tip I've got, other than to say try a lot of them and see what works. What do you have to lose? 5 minutes?
Right. There aren't that many notes. By the way, I want to plug Master Writer for a minute because your point is so well taken about looking for fresh ideas and a way to say something that's never been used before. I had Barry DeVores on the other day from Master Writer, and prior to him being on the show, they showed me an 8-minute video they did that shows what it does now. It's mind-blowingly good for when you're looking for, like, how do you say a hot sun? Well, there are a million better ways to say it than that. Anyway, just throwing that out there. Next question. What's the difference between a post-chorus and an outro refrain?
In some ways, you could say the difference is just semantics. The post-chorus, in most instances, is going to not only be at the outro, which is the very end of the song. More often, it's going to be at the end of every chorus. And other than that, I don't know that there really is a big difference. As long as you're out... See, okay, maybe I'm wrong on this, because an outro refrain might just be repeating a part of the chorus or the end of the chorus that we've already heard, whereas the post-chorus creates a new hook, a new sound, a new melody that has not been heard elsewhere. If you want to do that and call it an outro, that's fine. But I think what differentiates the two is not only, like I said, that the post-chorus is probably going to be at the end of every chorus, but also that it's a unique, distinct melodic section, not just going out on the end of the chorus.
Magic notes used to be very popular by really good writers like Don Henley or Glenn Frey. New Kid in Town. Think about the fade out, the post-chorus, the fade out when they go up, shoot it up at least an octave. It's that last little thing that grabs your attention and cements the love affair with the song as it fades.
Absolutely. That's a great way to say it.
Can these concepts work, a magic note concept, can that work in film and TV, or would the raised notes distract from dialogue?
Wow, what a great question. The answer is, I don't know. It's going to depend on the scene. It could. But you know what? You still want a great melody, but not one that's going to jump out and draw people away from dialogue. Interestingly enough, I just finished a very intensive article that I wrote for a BMI magazine. I don't know when it'll be published, but it'll wind up, I'll put it on Facebook when it's published, and it'll wind up on my website, where, by the way, for free, you can access 85 articles that I've written. You don't have to join anything. You don't have to do anything. You just go to jasonblume.com, songwriting tips, and there are 85 of these long articles. So the one that I just did, and I don't want to take time to get into this a lot, but it talks about the different mixes and the different stems that you want to have available for sync, so that you're sure that if need be, you will not be distracting from dialogue. But I think that was an excellent question. You're still going to need a great melody, but maybe not one that's going to draw attention to itself.
I think that if a song is big and bombastic and it may draw attention to itself, it's not going to work well in in the back of a bar room scene, things like that. Then again, it may work really well for a feature where it's up front.
Right.
But those are fewer and far between. I think that having a magic note in your melody is fine for all applications. I doubt that it's going to get in the way of dialogue. I could be wrong, but I think I'm right.
I think you're right also. I do. Let me jump in and because there are a couple of tools I want to be sure I get to. Here is, in my opinion, the most important one. If you've ever heard me talk about melody, you know that I say that if you want melody to stick in people's brains, the repetition is the key. Repetition is the key. And then I usually say repetition is the key. Let me repeat myself, that repetition is the key. Okay, there are a lot of ways to incorporate repetition. And by the way, I will put in a very quick commercial and just tell you, if you want an entire melody class with me, I sell a recorded thing that you can download digitally. I'll hopefully we'll talk about that later. And if I don't, just go to my website. Okay, the most important melodic thing that I am noticing over and over again is establishing a little tiny hooky piece of the melody that's like a quirky rhythm within a line. I'm not even talking about a whole line. I'm talking about a little itty bitty piece. And then you repeat that rhythm over and over and over and over again. I don't know if you know the song Dance Monkey. It was a hit in the US by Tones and I. It went to number 4. But outside the US, this was the biggest song in the world. It spent 10 weeks at number 1 in Australia. It was probably number 1 in 30 or more countries. Massive hit, Dance Monkey. Check it out so you can hear this tool. The artist is called Tones, and then the ampersand and the letter I, Tones and I. And it's a killer video, by the way, too. There is a place in the song, in the pre-chorus, where she repeats, see you, see you, see you, da-da-da. And then again, we get that da-da-da-da-da-da, this little piece that just keeps repeating. And then we hear, you make me, make me, make me. And over again, it's like hammering home this same little thing. Then she gets to the chorus and the same tool is used. Dance for me, dance for me, dance for me, oh, oh, oh. Dance for me, dance for me, dance for me, oh, oh, oh. It's just that repetition of the little phrase is so powerful. I want to give you a sense of why I'm saying it's a rhythm that's getting repeated. It's not necessarily the same notes, although it very often is. Massive song, Meant to Be, Florida Georgia Line with BB Rexa. Massive, biggest country song of the year a couple of years ago, and crossover to the pop and adult contemporary charts. Listen, I'm going to recite the rhythm of the chorus, and I want you to hear how many times you're going to hear the rhythm of meant to be. Da-da-da. If it's meant to be, it'll be. Da-da-da. 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 That was 4 of them. Then the next part goes da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da. 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 Over and over again. We hear 8 times in that chorus. Da-da-da. Meant to be. If it's meant to be, it'll be. It'll be. Baby, just let it be. If it's meant to be, it'll be. It'll be. Baby, just let it be. It's like hammering it home. How can you not remember that? A similar thing where you're putting an emphasis on a certain note. Body like a back road. Da, da. At the end of every line. Body like a back road. Da, 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 da. Then back to now, if you want to hear the ultimate in simplicity and repetition, where you would literally say, there's no way, you can't write a pop song with that much repetition in it. Listen to the chorus of Watermelon Sugar. Write that down. Harry Styles, Watermelon Sugar. You are not going to believe the amount of repetition. Sometimes people say to me, how much is too much repetition? I never hear it. I never hear too much. Uptown Funk. Mark Ronson with Bruno Mars. The lyric and the melody for Don't Believe Me, Just Watch is repeated, are you ready? 18 times in the song. Uptown, Uptown Funk gonna give it to you. We hear that exact line 26 times in the song. The song is a non-stop oral feast of melodic hooks that are just seared into the brain. Question.
Where we go? Oh, this is a good one. The difference between dated or current melodies. There's an affliction out there with many, many, many new songwriters. Actually, people that are very experienced songwriters, been doing it for 20, 30 years. They write stuff that sounds dated. They don't know how to create a current sounding melody. Can you tell them?
Wow, not in a minute or two. I have an article archived on the website where I told you to go look at songwriting tips. That's called "What Do You Do If Your Songs don't sound like what's on today's radio?" I think you have to immerse in what's on today's radio. You wouldn't believe how many people who are really serious about this. I'll mention any of these number one songs, and they never heard of them.
Right.
Or they say, "Oh, I heard that. That's crap. That's junk."
Or I don't like what's on radio today. It's all crap. Right. Yeah.
Right. Then you shouldn't be writing it. And the biggest thing I point to when people say to me, well, what's different today? What I don't hear is the huge soaring choruses that Whitney Houston, Celine Dion, Michael Bolton, that those kind of artists from the 80s, from the early 90s were doing. I hear more rhythm being the hooks. I'm not saying that your chorus probably won't have the highest note, but it's not going to go up to the stratosphere. I don't hear that a lot. I really don't. I think that's one of the big differences.
I think that's a great observation.
Yeah. It is time to interrupt our regularly scheduled class for a well thought out commercial. Are you tired of not having your brilliance recognized? Are you sick of tone deaf idiots turning down your masterpieces? Are you ready to take your writing to the next level? Well, are you? I've got a handy dandy solution. It's called Vita Songa Vegemin. Oh, no, that's a different commercial. Bottom line is you can take me home with you by buying, they're around here somewhere. Well, they look like little credit cards. And what they actually, I'm not going to sell actual cards. You just contact Neil at jbsongdoc at gmail.com, jbsongdoc@gmail.com. And today only, we will offer $5 off every $20 one. So there's lyrics, melody, business, placing music in TV and films. Each one's a full class with me with exercises or resources. jbsongdoc@gmail.com. Tell Neil what you want to buy, and he will send you the invoice so that it is $5 off one and $10 off if you buy all four. You can't get that just by going to my website. If you want to be added to my mailing list, jbsongdoc@gmail.com, and you can learn about small critique webinars that I rarely have time to do anymore, but my online BMI workshop. And if you want to buy the books, as we talked about, they are sold at Amazon.com. And we now return to our regularly scheduled class.
Do you want one more question, or do you want to launch into your next?
Yeah, since we're running out, let's go for a question.
Okay, Greg Carosa asks, should you jettison a pre-chorus and a bridge in favor of a post-chorus?
I don't think it should be one or the other. I mean, there are so many songs that have all of those elements in them. I don't think there's any reason why you would say I can't have this one. Now, if your song is really running long, where you're going to be well over 4 minutes, lose a bridge. I would do that. But to me, losing a pre-chorus or losing a post-chorus that somebody's going to hear in the first minute or so of your song that's something I don't want to lose compared to a bridge that's not going to come up for 2.5 minutes and nobody's ever going to hear it if you didn't completely blow them away at the end of the first chorus. But again, I don't think you should have to choose one or the other. And by the way, Michael, when you're asking me questions, just know I need just about a minute to do my inspirational wrap up at the end.
All right, we've got about 5.5 minutes left to go.
Okay, great.
One more question. This is from Lane Bell and Shrek. Does it just take the right person to use one of your songs as a hit, whilst others didn't? So, the frustration, I think, of a songwriter out there pitching, and you're waiting for just that one person, that right moment. Tell them one of your stories about when you were still eating cat food and how many times you had to pitch stuff to get a cut.
The song that completely changed my life was like 1,000 times better than anything I had previously done, because it's the first time I had written with a professional staff writer, and his publisher oversaw the demo process. So the song was 1,000 times better and the demo was 10,000 times better. So now I'm certain everything's going to change for me immediately. Maybe it'll take a week. 3.5 years later, after every person had passed on the song, it got recorded by a big star. It was the Oak Ridge Boys, at a time when everything they did went to #1, except for my song. And I'm very proud to have written the lowest charting single in the history of the Oak Ridge Boys' career. So after 3.5 years of waiting, my song was a devastating stiff. 5 years after that, and 75 more rejections later, an artist named John Berry recorded the same song, and it played on the doorbell of the house that it paid for. It was an instance where I had to keep believing in the song, and it had to find its right home. Believe me, there are plenty of songs out there that deserve their homes, and they're not all going to find them. And we just have to accept that. We have to have the tender heart of the writer and the skin of an armadillo. This is tough. If you can't deal with rejection, go be a music business attorney. You'll make lots of money, and actually maybe not. But anyway, the point is, it's tough out there. And yes, we have to keep pitching and believing in our songs, not if you're getting consistently horrible feedback. If people are over and over again saying good reasons why this song is not working, move on, learn the lessons. But, in my instance, I knew the song was there, or I wouldn't have had a single with the Oak Ridge Boys.
Here's an interesting thing. It's not about songs, more about the business. And I want to comment and then get your comment on this. Greetings. This is from Ken Parks Productions. Greetings. Recently, we submitted a song, presumably to TAXI, I'm guessing, and the reviewer refused it because it was too repetitive in the chorus. All the publishers in Nashville who have heard it think it's a hit. Interesting. I'm thinking if all the publishers in Nashville that heard it thought it was a hit, they all would have offered to sign it to a deal and represent it. Am I correct?
Yes. My feeling is, in a lot of those cases, people are trying to be nice. It took me a long time. I lived in Nashville for almost 20 years. It took me a long time to translate Nashville to real world, where people are, oh, bless your heart, and darling, oh, that's a hit. Y'all wrote such a beautiful song there. And I think that the person who asked the question hit it right on the nose. If somebody believes that song is a smash hit, they're going to sign it. And in terms of it being quote unquote too repetitive in the chorus, my guess is it's that what you were repeating was not appealing enough to the person. Not that they heard the same thing too many times. Listen to Watermelon Sugar. You're going to hear the same line over and over and over and over and over again, and then you're going to hear it 8 more times.
Right.
The problem probably is what that line was, not the amount of repetition.
I completely concur. It's time for the big wrap-up.
All right. What I do as a teacher is I analyze the songs that are successful. And by successful, these are songs that are connecting with millions of listeners. So what I try to do is identify why are these songs connecting? What are they doing melodically? What are they doing chord-wise? And I share those tools. But some people get confused and think I'm trying to make their writing mechanical. That's not it. The goal is to internalize the tools so that your own one-of-a-kind creativity can emerge using tools that have been proven to connect with listeners. I hope you get lucky, because luck is important. But it's amazing how lucky you can get when you have an incredible idea expressed with a unique, fresh, get that melody out of my head kind of a melody. The most important thing I can say is what I'll end with. Nobody gets to guarantee you success, but I absolutely know that it's possible, because I have seen so many people become successful and go from zero to wow. It's possible. I hope that these tools help you. Now, have an amazing rest of your road rally. And thank you, Michael, for making this possible. You are amazing.
Thank you very much. You are amazing, sir. I've heard you dozens of times and always learned something new. Really appreciate it. Love the beard. It is so working for you.
Thank you.
And everybody should go visit Jason's website, JasonBlume, BLUME.com. Next up, we have Jason. Jason and I both call him a friend, I think. Fett from Nashville, doing a thing on the 5 primary mixing tools. Jason, you were awesome as always. Thank you so much.
You.
Give my best to Neil and the kittens, and we'll talk to you soon, buddy. Good to see you.
Thanks so much. Be well,
Thank
Michael.
You too.